Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. We're coming back to Mathmech yet again. This is a deck that on the most recent tier list I rated pretty highly. I put it in like upper to mid tier 2, which looking back, it's the same day I recorded that video actually, just like maybe a couple hours later. Looking back, I think I might have rated Mathmech more highly than quite a few other people would. I don't know. We'll see what the comments say about that, if they do have anything to say about that, or I don't know, anything else about the tier list. But anyway, yeah, no, I think it's just because I do really hold this deck in pretty high regard, and I don't think that's necessarily unwarranted. Like I touched on in the tier list video, Mathmech has a lot of strengths similar to that of Snake Eye, in that it has a lot of one-card combo lines, or at least multiple one-card combo lines, as well as a couple of different ways to search them, which means that it is able to play a higher quantity of hand trap / going second cards than a lot of other decks would be able to. As you can see here, I actually have a lot of the same cards I like playing in Snake Eye. A couple of Veilers, a couple of Drolls, a couple of Triple Tactics talent. The Veilers are actually a little bit more needed here as a Small World bridge, but one other going second card you could use as a Small World bridge is Thunder King the Lightning Strike Kaiju, being light and also completely different stats and level and type than the Mathmech monsters, would enable you to also, again, use this card as a bridge. Nibiru, also a bridge for the same reason. It's light with completely different stats than Circular. So that is another option. That card is definitely viable. I like Veiler more than the Kaiju myself. I think it's a little bit more flexible as a card, and of course in this meta I definitely value a Monster Negate much more highly than a you know, a single target board breaker, so to speak, in the form of a Kaiju. I think if I had room for another card like that, I would probably just play the third effect Veiler. Trolls, again, not bad in this meta at all, and you can definitely use these against Max C. In this deck, it's kind of like, Droll is kind of weird against this deck, right? So obviously if they Droll after you Signet Mining or Small World to search for Circular, that hurts quite a bit. But if they Droll you after the Circular for Super Fact Search on turn 1, it's really hand dependent, but you can usually just play through that anyway. I don't even know if it's really hand dependent, would it be? Because normally, well, normally you would overlay for Alimbertion, but what you could do is just make Splash Mage instead with, oh, but then the Sigma would get banished as the, well, that's actually fine. No, that's not fine. Well, it's kind of fine. So you could make Splash Mage with Circ and Sigma. Sigma would get banished. Splash Mage bring back Circular for Link Decoder go into Terahertz. But you would have to dump both Diameter on your turn and then another Mathmech on the opponent's turn. So you wouldn't get D-Save for him if you did it that way. But if you have an extender, then you can definitely, I think you should definitely be able to, like, you still can't Alimbertion search, but then you would be able to get the Sigma in the yard, I'm pretty sure. Well, I mean, if nothing else, you could just overlay for Alimbertion, not search, then go for Splash Mage, then Sigma would just go to the yard. So in any case, the Droll Mockbird, if you're going to use it against Max C in this deck, I would definitely advise waiting until after the Alimbertion search. After that point, you don't really need to search anymore for the combo line, but getting the Diameter there is pretty important. You will have to give your opponent a couple of draws, but really, of course, Droll is more for using against your opponent's Bonfire, if they're on Sekai. If you happen to run into that deck, then you can, of course, use it when they Bonfire, and that will shut down their combo line. Of course, it has a lot of uses against a lot of other decks, but as I've touched on before, the one thing I don't like about Droll in this meta is that it's not that great against Lab. It's actually pretty, I don't know, I don't want to call it useless, but the only time it really comes up is, it would pretty much be if they start with, like, Extravagance, right? And then if you Droll them after that, they can't, I don't know, they can't Ariana, which might matter one in, like, every 100 duels against Labyrinth, but, and then Branded, there are more situations where Droll is good, but it is still fairly situational, whether Droll will actually end up doing anything in that matchup. So those two matchups are, like, pretty much the main things holding Droll back from being just great against everything, which, to be fair, I think is a sign of a good meta, you know, in that regard, in that one regard, in that is that it's not a total Droll meta, because I know, I gotta clarify that, because I know if some people hear me say that, they'll be like, that's tier 0, though. I don't know, I still think the meta's fine. I obviously really like playing Snake Eye, but I still like playing a lot of other decks, and you know, when I play a deck like Mathmech or, spoiler alert, Manadium is going to be one of the other pretty soon upcoming deck profiles, I don't really feel like I'm at an inherent disadvantage in this meta. Just because there is the existence of a tier 0 deck, I don't think means I can't have fun playing other stuff and also have some success with them as well. I actually ranked up to Diamond 4 with Mathmech from Diamond 5, but then I ended up falling back down playing Manadium, just getting refreshed with that deck, because I'm a bit rusty, I will admit. But anyway, that's another topic. That's another video for another day. I'm running a pretty standard Mathmech build here. I'm not doing anything like too out of the ordinary. I'm not on microcoder yet again. I did try it out briefly last season. I think it's good to revisit tech even if you don't think you like it, just to kind of reevaluate, because it might not only be different meta to meta, but also your opinion might just change over time. You might have some good experiences with it, become more open-minded to it. I gave Microcoder another shot, and I don't think Microcoder and Signet Conflict, the counter trap card, I don't think they're bad by any means, but I just don't think they're as good as, well, I mean, you could play the Firewall package as well, but I like being able to play the Firewall package. I like having room for all these different disruption or going second or whatever. I mean, Troll Attack is, of course, going to be going first as well, but, you know, these other kinds of tools, right? And, yeah, I don't know. It's just, it didn't come up for me that often. Not often enough to be worth it. I did go down to 2 Firewall Defensor. Normally, I play 3, but, again, I wanted to keep the ratios of, as I've been talking about, the hand traps and such, but also, I really don't think you need to go full out on all the one-card starters that Mathmech has, because then you get this kind of awkward situation where, like, if you open, I don't know, if you open something like Circular plus Diameter plus Firewall Defensor, well, then your Firewall Defensor, you're just, like, not going to play it at all that turn. Or if you open, like, Firewall Defensor plus Signet Binding, and you Signet Binding discard for Circular, because the thing about the Firewall Defensor line is if you normal summon, like if you start by normal summoning it, well, you've committed your normal summon, and that means you have to do the Firewall line pretty much. Also, Firewall Defensor plus Circular, even just opening those two in general, isn't really that much of a benefit, because the Defensor line is going to get you to Circular anyway, and if you do the circular line and your opponent doesn't have disruption, then you're just going to normal summon Diameter, and then you're not going to use the Defensor. So I decided to go down to 2 copies of Defensor, but this is another reason why I'm pretty optimistic. Even if Circular goes to 1, this deck is still good, because, you know, we're already opting to not play all of the one-card starters we can, so if Circular goes down to 1, like, obviously that will be a blow to the deck, but we can pretty easily just then max out on Defensor and maybe just some other, like, gas or engine card in general. I think that's pretty much the most major change to the deck overall. The extra deck is still pretty much exactly the same as I've had it for this kind of like Firewall Extender build, which is the build with Singularity. I've talked about this card a lot. I like it a lot. I do think it is still pretty optional. Like, you definitely do not have to be on Singularity to be on a good Mathmech deck. But I think particularly for best of 1, I like the option of going into this on turn 1. It's not hard to do. You just need Circular / Defensor plus an Extender. Could be addition, subtraction. Could be a Parallel Exceed as well. And from there, you can just go Singularity plus Terahertz, which adds 2 bounces to your turn 1 in board, which is pretty good. The other option, of course, is if you have Circular or Defensor plus an Extender and you're not on Singularity, then I'm pretty sure you can then do the Microcoder Signet Conflict package. But I also like that the Singularity doesn't eat up the slots in the main deck, leaving you, again, more room for attack or other stuff or what have you. Funnily enough, I initially was on 3 Defensor, 2 Small World, but I actually like the 3 Small World better, because if you open Small World plus Circular, honestly, a lot of the time I wouldn't even grab like an Extender, just like grab Ash Blossom, and then you have it out for maxing, you can just do your plays. That's how I like to use it. But anyway, Let's go ahead and break this list down card by card, and then we'll take a look at some gameplay. We're on 2 Effect Veiler, 2 Droll Knockbird, 1 Dotscaper, 3 Maxi, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Firewall Guardian, 1 Mathmech Sigma, 1 Mathmech Addition, 1 Mathmech Subtraction, 1 Mathmech Multiplication, 1 Mathmech Diameter, 3 Mathmech Circular, 2 Firewall Defensor, 2 Parallel Exceed, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 2 Silent Mining, 1 Mathmech Equation, 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 3 Small World, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Cross-Eye Designator, 3 Infinite Impermanence, and then 1 Mathmech Super Factorial. And that is going to do it for our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Cyberse D-Save Worm, 1 Primathmech Laplation, 1 Primathmech Alimbertion, 1 Mirologic Aggregator, 1 Salamangreat Almirage, 1 Lingeribo, 1 Link Decoder, 1 Update Jammer, 1 Splash Mage, 1 G-Golem Crystal Heart, 1 Transcode Talker, 1 Decode Talker Heat Soul, 1 Access Code Talker, 1 Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid, Neo Tempest Terahertz, and then finally a Firewall Dragon Singularity. There is our list. Let's see some gameplay now. Okay, let's start with a game against Stun, because it's been a minute since I think I've featured a game against Stun on the channel. We're even going to be going second in this game. Wow, I totally forgot about that. Let's see what we got here. Maxi Firewall Defensor, Triple Attack, and 2 Small Worlds. So, set to pass. My initial thought was that this was a regular kind of combo deck that just had a bricked hand. So, I'm going to lead with the Small World and actually get rid of my Maxi for, like I said before, the Ash Blossom. Because at this point, I'm pretty committed to comboing out. And if I'm thinking they are on a regular deck that bricked, it's not unlikely for them to be able to have Maxi here. So, that was my reasoning. They're actually going to D-Shifter instead. So here, since they use a monster effect, I'm going to triple attack and see what's going on with their hand. And, well, my assumption wasn't far off. They just went for the shifter instead, which actually makes sense given that I searched Ash Blossom. You know, if I'm my opponent, I'd be like, okay, well, Maxi isn't useful here anyway. Although I will say, one thing they could have done, but that's the thing, is would I even play in that situation? Because I was going to say they could have shifted and then maxied anyway to try to get me to use my Ash Blossom, but maybe they figured I wouldn't go for it. But at the same time, it's like, do you really value hanging on to the extra maxi that badly? Because it's like, it's just an extra copy. So anyway, here, obviously I'm just going to end up putting back a maxi because I have no other option. But I'll also just end because I'm like, okay, again, me not knowing they're on stun, me thinking this is just a combo deck, I'm like, well, okay, if they're like in a situation where they've bricked, then this is fine. I can just not give them any draws and they won't have anything. I should also specify, this is a runic stun deck specifically. That will come up here. You can imagine how pretty shortly. So, drawing another Ash Blossom opponent's going to shotgun the Maxi, whatever. I have multiple Ashes at this point, so I think they knew they just had to get rid of it and decided to just go for it. So, alright, we did manage to avoid it getting a Maxi here at the very least. I'm going to Firewall Defensor for the Lingeribo, and my goal now is to see if I can try to OTK with the Lingeribo up, so that way I can not have to worry about at least one of my opponent's back row. But, well, again, I was going to say, I mentioned before that something that might make the Lingeribo not come up, but we'll see here. Anyway. I'm going to make the Alimbertion here, activating its effect, detaching both materials, grabbing the Mathmech Addition. That opponent's going to Runic Flashing Fire. So, at this point, I realized that my Lingeribo wasn't going to be nearly as valuable as I thought. If they're on Runic Flashing Fire, then not only are they on a lot more spells, more likely, but a lot of Runic builds just play no spells at all. And at this point, I don't know that it's Runic Stun, and I'm just not sure what kind of a Runic build it is. Long story short, you know, they also haven't used any trap cards up to this point. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to need Lingeribo anymore. Plus, by getting rid of it here, I can optionally try to go for a Terahertz OTK, right? Transcode, Splash Mage, and the Decode, or Link Decoder, that one. Yep, here's the Terahertz. We're no longer under the shifter, so I can just bin the multiplication and multiplication F. Opponent has a Runic Slumber, however, and that is going to prevent my Terahertz from being able to attack. So, no OTK on this turn, but that's fine. We can just wait until the next turn. Opponent's pretty much in top deck mode here, and I do have an Ash Blossom, right? Plus I can set up the D-Save Worm during the draw phase. Opponent has Wall of Revealing Light here. Wall of Revealing Light. For those who do not know what this card does, it's a continuous trap card activated by paying any multiple of 1,000 life points. Monsters your opponent controls can attack if their attack is less than or equal to the amount that you paid. I have seen in the DC Top 100, the Duelist Cup Top 100, there was a stun deck that was on Wall of Revealing Light. I wonder if my opponent is on it card for card, actually. I don't know, but yeah, no. Thankfully, we set up the D-Save Worm. I don't know why my opponent didn't chain. I really just don't know Mathmech that well. I was going to say, if it was already set, they should have chained Wall of Revealing Light to the D-Save Worm, right? And then I obviously wouldn't have been able to negate it. Or not to the D-Save Worm, but rather to the Terahertz effect activating, because that would have sent D-Save Worm. But again, maybe my opponent just isn't familiar with how Mathmech works. To be fair, though, even if they had done that, I'm pretty sure I could have, on my turn, then sent Mirror Logic Aggregator, and then, yeah, negated the Wall of Revealing Light, and then just attacked for lethal anyway. So, yep, there is game number 1 against Runic Stun. Let's see the next duel here. Okay, our next opponent is going to be on Branded Despia. Looks like they are attacking DD Crows, which is likely for the Snake Eye matchup, but unfortunately for us, people on DD Crow are also going to catch us the Mathmech matchup. So, going second again, but what a going second hand this is. I would definitely take losing the coin flip every single time. If it meant I could always open Maxi Ash Blossom, double Imperm, and the one-card starter, our Firewall Defensor here. So, opponent's going to Nadir Servant. I'm going to let that go. Just going to wait for the Brain Diffusion if possible. I won't Imperm the Quem here, mostly because I have 2 Imperm in hand. I think if I only had the 1, I might try to save it here. End phase, so now I know my opponent doesn't have Brain Diffusion, so I'll use Ash Blossom on the Albion when they go to try to do that. This is why sometimes I hesitate to give advice like, oh, against Branded, always Ash Blossom the Brain Diffusion, because some people might hear that and then not use the Ash on the Albion during end phase, thinking, oh, I gotta wait for Brain Diffusion, but when it's like, that's why I always throw on an asterisk when I give advice of when to use a hand trap. It's like, you know, you can do it here most of the time, but it also depends on the situation, right? So, yeah, just gonna normal summon Firewall Defensor, go for the Defensor into. Probably just going to go into Terahertz here, not make things too complicated. If I'm going for one OTK line or the other, I definitely prefer to go for Terahertz because the access code line is inherently much weaker to Imperm, is like the big one, especially once you've cleared their field. Now, obviously, Brandon pretty much never plays Imperm. Oh, here's the DD Crow. It's going to catch our Sigma here, but it totally doesn't matter because I can still make the Terahertz here extremely easily by linking off the Circular into Link Decoder. But yeah, no, Brandon is like never plays Imperm anyway, almost never. I'm sure there are some builds out there with him, and I don't think it's bad, but the deck just usually, in my experience, doesn't have room for it. And I mean, even if it was a deck that normally played Imperm, they probably would have just set it during their turn anyway, so. But it's still worth considering. Long story short, Terahertz tends to be the... Definitely if you're under Maxi and you're just going for an OTK anyway, Terahertz is definitely the way to do it. Like, to be fair, Imperm will stop a Terahertz OTK as well, but only if they don't have any cards on the field. If you're attacking into a monster like I am here, then you can't get Impermed, because obviously they can't activate it. Alright, there is game number 2 against the Branded deck. Let's see the next one. Alright, this next opponent is on quite the deck here. It's Super Heavy Samurai, Snake Eye, Spiral. Just all the S archetypes. And a third going second game in a row. That's right, I remember this play session now did have quite a few coin flip losses. But what else is new, apparently? We're just losing coin flips and winning anyway. Like, after this last, like, couple of seasons now, I don't even, like, care about winning or losing coins. I've hit that stage where it's just, like, if I've got my deck ratio correct and I have it built right, the coin flip, whether I win or lose it, shouldn't really affect, you know, whether I win the duel or not. even off of Snake Eye, right? Like, as I'm playing Mathmech here as well, I very much feel that way too. Opening Firewall Guardian plus the Parallel Exceed here. A lot of people, I've seen people say, I don't know about a lot, but I've seen at least a couple of people in the comments say they're not fans of the Firewall package because of opening or like playing a Garnet, which is fair, that is valid, but I don't really think Guardian is even that much of a Garnet. Really, it doesn't take a lot alongside Guardian to have plays. Like, if you have Firewall Guardian plus like literally any of the extenders, addition, subtraction, or here in this case Parallel Exceed, or of course Circular, but if you open Circular, you just got Circular, then Sigma plus Guardian is also plays. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. So here I am going to get hit with, I think it was a Effect Veiler on the Allen version. Yes, I wanted to talk about this for a moment here. So yeah, when I had the board state of Almirage, Parallel Exceed, and Firewall Guardian, I definitely don't even need to go for Circular here. Like, I have more than enough materials on board to go for Update Jammer Access Code, but I don't want to get hit with something like an Effect Veiler. So I use the Allen version here more than anything else to bait my opponent. Plus, obviously, in the actual game, I saw they were getting, you know, priority passed over to them. They have a monster on the field, so I know it's not Imperm. So one of the first things I'm thinking is, okay, it could be Effect Veiler. So yeah, going for Allen version did successfully bait out the Effect Veiler, and now I'm just like, cool, we can just go for the Update Jammer Access Code here. The reason to go for Update Jammer Access Code in this situation, by the way, you might be wondering, well, wait, didn't you say in the last game it's better to go for Terahertz? Yes, but if your opponent only has defense position monsters, you do need to update Jammer Access Code, because Terahertz needs either a direct attack or an attack position monster with 3,000 or less attack points to battle into. So yeah, like I said, if your opponent has Imperm, or they could also Veiler, like during the end of the main phase, right? Or just at a point when Access Code... They can't Veiler in response to Access Code's effect, obviously, but they can, when they have priority passed over to them, if they have like their toggle flipped on, they can Imperm Access Code as you go into battle phase, and that will lower it down to 2300 attack, much like they can Imperm Access Code during the battle phase to lower it to 2300 attack, and then you don't have an OTK. So again, that's the risk of Update Jammer Access Code, but again, as we saw here, there are some situations where you do need to do that line in order to make sure that you are able to secure the win. But like I said, we were able to bait out the Veiler before we went for the OTK line anyway, so yeah, I mean, like I said, as long as you're playing well, baiting out your opponent and all that stuff, and obviously if you're able to play a deck like this, where you can have a lot of hand traps and one-card starters, then in a lot of games, it really shouldn't matter whether you win or lose the coin flip. Alright, let's take a look at our final duel here. Our last opponent for this video is going to be on Super Heavy Samurai. So let's see what their hand looks like. I say there because, yep, again, it was another going second game. This one is going to be a bit rough because we don't have any hand traps. And I mean, that is going to happen sometimes. But also, your opponent could just pass into you sometimes during, just go straight to the end phase there. Now here, I'm going to get Max Seed. So I'm going to start with Small World. And opponent is going to use Ash Blossom. So at this point now, they've blown through 2 different hand traps. And they did not have plays at all during the last turn. So what I think I'm going to do here is just go for Circular off the Signet Mining, but set Firewall Guardian and pass. I will say this much, though. I will say this much. In hindsight, I should have baited with Signet Mining and then Small Worlded for Ash Blossom in case they had plays here. Top decking a Veiler is kind of like meh. They have another Maxi. This time they're waiting for me to get a guaranteed summon. And at this point, I was like, fine, I'll just go for it. Which, I don't know. I don't think I necessarily had to. Like, I think I could have stopped at 1 summon. That would have definitely been the safe play, of course. But here I decided to play it risky because I knew I could Allen version Diameter. The thing is, that's only 1 negate, and it's not hard for them to have, like, Nib plus Veiler here, which I did think about mid-combo line. Like, I don't know. I think I played it unnecessarily risky here, honestly. Although I will say, I do still have some follow-up here if things end up going south. So, yeah, bringing back the Sigma. Sigma gonna link that off for the link decoder. I'm just gonna go for terahertz here with the Allen version still up again. That does still have the omni-negate effect with the diameter attached to it. So, making the transcode talker. Gonna bring back link decoder now, and then transcode's gonna bring back my splash mage. And this is when they drop the Nibiru. I'm gonna use the Allen version here. But they do have not Valor, but Gamma, actually, which is honestly even worse. So, alright, yep. They do put the Gamma and the driver in attack mode, though. So they do have that going for me. I guess it doesn't matter because they have the Nib. But they put the Nib in attack mode, too. Which is generally correct. But this does mean I can still terahertz OTK them and not have to do update jammer access code. Opponent's going to Ghost Bell on the Sigma. That's going to have to be fine. Actually, it is fine because I still have Subtraction and Parallel Exceed in hand. So I'm going to use Subtraction on the Nibiru here. Circular Effect is going to try to search. Opponent's going to use a Valor on it. Alright, so we are going to then make Jeagle and Crystal Heart, I believe, here. But I actually misplayed here. But I wonder how much it would have mattered. So I make Jeagle and then I activate Parallel Exceed. I totally just forgot that you actually do have to put the monster that you bring back with Jeagle into the zone it points to. So it's kind of a non-synergy with exactly Parallel Exceed. And unfortunately, there's just not anything I can make with these materials on the field. So I have to concede here. So I wonder, though, if I hadn't used Parallel Exceed, they would have just Valored the Jeagle though, and I would have had to have conceded anyway. Because I don't play Link Rebo, that does potentially... Well, but even if I played Link Rebo, I wouldn't have been able to have a zone for Parallel to point to. Yeah, I don't think it was there. It was close, but not quite there. Again, playing through that Maxi was pretty risky, and I don't think in hindsight I needed to take that kind of a risk. I felt a little committed because of one draw, but I also had the Valor. I really should have just passed back to them. There was a pretty decent shot they would have had a combo line that would have played through a Valor at that point, but I think it's I don't know. You take a risk either way, right? So that'll do it for this video. Thanks to everyone so very much for watching. Let us now move on to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.